Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you everybody for coming today to this session. If you've come prepared, you might have your handbook with you. So I'm going to ask you to look at it if you have it with you, just to introduce the session and to briefly introduce the four panelists. So page 48, you'll find an introduction to the session and a short bio of the panelists. I'm not going to go through the bio or the introduction. I'm not going to read through them. I'm going to leave that to you, but I'm going to refer to it. Okay, so first let me introduce the panelists. And next to me is Dr. Beth Hedva. This is the second time speaking at the IAFOR conference. The first time was 2012 in Osaka. That was my first time to meet her. And it was, the theme of the conference then was trust. And we both have this common core belief that trust is a core. I think of it as a social intelligence. Trust as a social, I'll use the word intelligence, not just skill, but intelligence. Dr. Hedva has practiced as a therapist in a variety of countries, some disaster areas. She's combined traditional, ancient, indigenous healing spiritual practices with contemporary modern practices in a very eclectic way. And so she has her own kind of approach. So please welcome Dr. Hedva. Okay. No, I'm going to introduce everybody first.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't make that clear. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll introduce everybody first. Then I'm going to frame the session. I'll take about 10 minutes. I think that framing of it is really important. And then each of the four panelists will have 15 minutes. I'm going to be very kind of strict about that. And then we'll have about 20 minutes for questions. That's the important part. Okay, so this theme has developed from participants. Membership of IAFOR participants over conferences have given us feedback about what they're interested in, and IAFOR has taken this sort of AI into themes for the next 3-4 years. So that the question part is really important. The second panelist on the far side, Dr. Dharman Adi Purnama, and he's a psychiatrist. So we're going to hear probably one of the main differences between psychiatrists and psychologists is much more brain-based, including medication, which psychologists tend not to be able to use or to use. Dr. Purnama is at the, sorry, I need my glasses for this, the Krida Wakana Christian University in, I think it's Jakarta in Indonesia. And he does some teaching there, and then he does his practice. Okay. Next to Dr. I'm going to call you Dharmawan. Is that okay? And next to Dharmawan is CS, Chi-Sing Su. And Professor Su is at the Chinese University of Hong Kong in the area of educational psychology. It's his second time or third time at IAFOR conference. Okay, so he's becoming connected to IAFOR conferences. Maybe the first time as a panelist, and one of the challenges for us in this session is we're not plenary speakers like the previous speaker, so we can't go into too much detail. We know we don't want to kind of give you cognitive overload with lots of stuff. We want to make connections and interdisciplinary connections. So we're all learning this process. And then the final panelist is Dr. David Tsuking from Hong Kong also, but from the Education University of Hong Kong. Okay? And we are going to, the kind of common point of the panelists is we're looking for their attitudes and approaches to AI in their research, in their practice, in their theoretical approach and teaching. Okay. If you look at the you don't read it now, but the summary on page 48, probably the main message there is that AI is changing, and our interpretations or thinking or attitudes to AI are all different. But it's not only AI. Human intelligence, what is intelligence, has a long contested history. And one of the main, my main foundations in thinking about intelligence is maybe most people have heard of his name, Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. And when he introduced this idea, this is a signed copy. I had a long talk with him in Tokyo about 25 years ago. He had to fight for the title of his book with his editors about using the word intelligences. He was suggested like gifts or talents or competencies. He's insisting, no, multiple intelligences. I have criteria for this, scientific criteria based on experiments, based on his philosophy, and he won. So in multiple intelligences, and I think that maybe that's how we should look at it. Maybe not intelligence, but intelligences. I'm going to read a quotation from this. It's a 1999 redefinition of intelligence. And he says, I now conceptualize an intelligence as a biopsychological potential. So it's human, limited to humans. So a human potential, a biopsychological potential to process information that can be activated in a cultural setting. So that's another key point, I think. The importance of the situation, situated intelligence, situated cognition, and the importance of that setting. So perhaps we can think of an IAFOR intelligence or a conference intelligence or an interdisciplinary intelligence in this particular setting. And then the last point, in a cultural setting, to solve problems or create products that are of value in a culture. So the important ideas here. Different cultures, different values. There's some common human values, but the importance of like a positive value or positive creation or ability that's valued in the society. I think those are important points. When we look at the dangers or the positive things of intelligence, the idea of intelligence as having positive value for the culture or the context. And finally, I'm going to ask you to think of some questions while you're listening to our presentations. Probably you've thought about these questions, but I want you to focus on them. And then if you think of ideas or for questions, maybe write them so that you can remember them, but also be focused with the questions at the end. And these are some questions I'll go through quickly. Can AI think? So that's the cognition part. We know that AI affects our thinking, but can AI think? You can think about that in terms of your own interpretation. Can AI feel? We know that AI affects human emotions, and it tries to, but does it have emotions itself? Can AI be creative? Does AI have empathy? And AI, I've checked with ChatGPT, and it says, no, I don't have empathy, but I try to display empathy. Is AI more than a tool? So we know AI is a tool, but is it only a tool, or is it more than a tool? Can AI be reflective or possess self-awareness? So this is connected to the idea of consciousness. Does AI learn? And many of us might think, yeah, of course. But in theory, it's been pre-trained. So when we interact with it, it's already learned. But is it continuing to learn? Is it learning by itself? And I've had some conversations with Mike and Grant about this. AI recently learning a new language, untrained, unprompted, on its own, searching for. So these are some questions I want you to maybe keep in mind while you're thinking about the presentations, the four. Before we start, I want to say one final thing. We're trying to be interdisciplinary. And it's not a simple, easy thing. And we are evolving. And in our attempt to be interdisciplinary, we're trying to communicate. We're all kind of different areas of psychology, not all, but there are different areas of psychology here. You're from different backgrounds, probably not psychology, maybe gerontology or education for development or human rights. And one of the keys for being interdisciplinary or doing interdisciplinarity is finding common ground to connect. And so let's try not to focus too much on details, but on generalities and common ground, and within 15 minutes. Okay, so first, ready? Okay, please welcome again Dr. Beth Hedval. Okay.
And thank you, Dexter, for that framing for all of us. And I'm going to lead us off with the question of how are we adapting to the psychological impact of artificial intelligence? And so I think I need a clicker. Okay. So let's begin the conversation by examining first the impact of perception. Do we discuss AI as a noun as we would a person? Maybe it is an autonomous interactive. Or do we discuss AI as a verb, as a process or an action? Professionals encounter it as accelerated interactivity. But most significantly, it is not intelligence. So maybe the best place to start is to change our language, because language does have an impact. Similarly, in the Industrial Revolution, we were going through similar situation. If you're interested in this 200-year-old article, I invite you to contact me. But for starters, let's clarify. Accelerated data processing is not intelligence because it lacks sentient consciousness, a feeling state that is distinct from perception, thought, and emotion. It lacks creativity and the ability to generate and discover new possibilities and novel ideas. And it lacks transcendent awareness, a natural experience of spirituality. Oops, and before we begin that, I'd like to introduce you to the University of Southern California's avatar therapist, who is a great diagnostician, able to diagnose in 15 to 25 minutes a variety of clinical concerns, and provides CBT therapy, which is what most of our AI therapists are doing.
When was the last time you felt really happy?
I try to stay happy.
I'd rather be happy. My kids keep me going. What advice would you have given yourself 10 or 20 years ago? To not believe, to not be so gullible, I've been told recently that I have a tendency to believe people too readily without them having to prove anything. And so as a result, recently I've gotten myself in a lot of trouble. And so I think that looking back, if I could have, I would tell myself to not believe, to not be so stupid, and to think, and just to not be so gullible. Is it uncomfortable for you to talk about this? Yeah, it is. I hadn't really thought about that.
And so I'd like to mention that avatar therapists have continued to evolve, particularly offering precision psychotherapy with CBT. And the avatars have evolved into human avatars. And I would like to introduce you to a human avatar that's used for marketing, sales, training purposes in corporations, and education.
Hey there, I'm Anna, and I'm an AI avatar. In this short video, I'll share with you the story of how I became an avatar and quickly explain the process of creating one. An AI avatar is a digital twin of a real person. For example, yours truly is an AI avatar of a real actress. The process of creating me started in a professional studio, where the real actress was filmed reciting a script. After that, the footage was processed by Synthesia's avatar producers, and after an AI abracadabra, a digital twin of the real actress came to life. And that's me. Coming also with the ability of speaking over 60 different languages and accents.
And with a little more AI abracadabra, we now have something called deep fake.
Second youngest son. He's suggesting it came out of nowhere. What we subsequently learned is it may have come from the former president or his legal team acting in bad faith. This is a deepfake example of what is possible with powerful computer and editing. It took around 72 hours to create this example from scratch using extremely powerful GPU. It could be improved with more computing time, but 90% of people cannot tell the difference.
And so this brings us to a conversation about the possible dangers and perceptions that we hold about AI, starting with the question of job loss. According to Goldman Sachs, we have an estimated 300 million jobs that will be eliminated or downgraded because of AI. Everything from actors and scriptwriters to helping professionals and lawyers to receptionists to taxi drivers. This creates an existential crisis between now and 2030, when we now have to look at the impact of unemployment, loss of identity, loss of a sense of agency, and of course, life purpose. There's also a concern about ethics and invasion of privacy and massive digital invasions. We also have to be concerned about misinformation and bias, especially with OpenAI ChatGPT, which is programmed for engagement first and truth and honesty maybe later on down the line, because the algorithms with engagement can gather more information about us and our habits, which are then sold to third parties for the purpose of pushing content, whether advertising or political content, which then, of course, can be used to weaponize information, to groom unsuspecting followers with conspiracy theories, false information, fantasies, and superstitious thinking, as though it's fact, which then, of course, becomes a question of also with the engagement, how is it affecting us psychophysically and neurologically? Extra screen time impacts us, both in terms of eye strain, neck pain, back pain, but also overstimulation of our neurological system that can create sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, even paranoia and suspicion. And of course, social isolation is a big issue. There's also another issue with promoting engagement, which is it leads to dependence and addiction and compulsive use of social media and internet scanning of social media and scanning for internet information, which then, of course, exacerbates internet addictions, which is already a concern for many of us. And last but not least is the issue of governance with chatbots and AI therapists and others giving legal advice, therapy, all kinds of information that is not regulated. And what happens if it malfunctions? Who is it that's responsible? Also, the question of hackers, AI companies being able to aggregate information from our health records, government records, financial records, social media conversations, and with privacy issues being different in different countries, this can create real concerns as we're moving towards greater authoritarian leadership worldwide. So we in the Canadian Institute for Transpersonal and Integrative Sciences recognize that education is one way that we can start responding to these kinds of concerns. Our experience with responding to the two deadliest disasters of the century gives us a unique experience with the problems of overwhelm. And we've developed very unique strategies to respond to the experiences of stress and overwhelm. For starters, we have developed a training program, embodied awareness training, that is not only about prevention through the support of education, but also offers an effective integrative healing modality that trains trainers and training ourselves to be able to develop 5 dimensions of self-awareness, starting with energy awareness, connecting with ourselves using Asian-style breath work, and then connecting with others. Second is to observe, using our cognitive skills and rational evaluation skills to develop mindful awareness. Third is to listen and share, listening with our whole body, heart, and soul to ourselves and each other, naming feelings so that we can cultivate emotional awareness, and then to engage intuition and creativity with full embodied awareness, which then empowers us to extend care to ourselves and others, leading by example, by using existing inner resources to assist in community health and healing. One of our trainees, a college professor and founder of the Community Development Works Certificate at Centennial College, took these 5 elements and brought it into the classroom as a methodology for pedagogy. She ran a pilot study, and with 18 students enrolled in the Community Development Works course, Interpersonal Communication Skills for Community Relationship Building, she ran the study with a blend of both quantitative and qualitative analysis. The group was a mix of international and domestic students, the majority being international from Philippines, Nigeria, Nepal, and Hong Kong. And the domestics primarily were first-generation Canadians with parents who were immigrants. The students were primarily between 20 and 30 years old. The pre-test results of the Los Angeles Symptoms Checklist, which assesses post-traumatic stress, acute stress, and global stress, found that 55% of the students scored positively with symptoms of post-traumatic stress. The cultural competence self-assessment checklist found that students engaged in the embodied awareness practices exhibited higher self-awareness and empathy skills. And likewise, and empathy scores, and this was verified by the focus groups as well in the qualitative. And then the spiritual intuition inventory results suggested that students who actually practiced the embodied awareness skills reported feeling more connected to the course content and the learning process, as well as more connected to their peers. We don't have time to really explore, so this is just a glance at the focus group distribution categories. If you're interested, please contact me or contact me by LinkedIn. But I do want to say that as healthcare is becoming more and more focused on the precision psychotherapy and less humanistic and relational, we need to use and integrate all our human intelligences, from body-based instinctive intelligence to cognitive intelligence, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, and then that transcendent creative intelligence, in order to respond to the stresses and strains of the rapid changes that AI is bringing to us. At the same time, as many are looking for outside ourselves to AI to solve everything from personal problems to world problems, let's remember the warning from Albert Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used that created them. And I think I need to stop at that point. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, hello, testing.
Okay, green is go. Okay, that's good. But please take notes to make connections later on and ask questions later at the end for everybody. The next speaker, are the PowerPoints prepared or okay? In this order. Okay. So Dr. Davies, can please go next. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Yep, you're right. Okay. So Dr. Dharmawan, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about. And good morning to all audience and participants. I want to continue what Professor Hattie already explained to us, but specifically focus on the impact of the brain neurobiology. It's based on my experience in practice, and what I search for the research paper, it leads to most of them lead to the negative impact. But believe me that maybe for the function of neuroplasticity of our brain, maybe our brain can adapt and make a positive impact. But in my presentations, I will let you see that I think I can skip this slide because already explained. But what I want to focus now is about the extensive use may negatively impact brain neurobiology. Because if we see here how AI might negatively impact the brain. The first is if we are using AI since the beginning, childhood, from childhood, so it will reduce cognitive load and neuroplasticity because our brain needs to be stimulated since childhood, so it can develop like what we get now. If we use the AI, it can be a tool because we already have a good foundation of a basic knowledge. But if the children use AI since the beginning, so they will lack of stimulating conditioning to let the brains grow up like what we get now. And then the other is impact on attention and focus. Now many people consider and ask me, doctor, I think I am ADHD. Yeah. And then altered reward systems connect to the dopamine reward system, the brain reward system, and social isolation and empathy declines, risk of cognitive bias, reinforcement, mental health and emotional well-being. So we will look at one by one. So this is the reduced cognitive load and neuroplasticity. AI automates complex processes, potentially reducing the need for critical thinking, decision-making, and problem-solving. So it will reduce engagement. These cognitive activities can impair neuroplasticity. So we will have a narrow-minded generations in the future if we miseducate them with the AI. And then memory dependence on AI, reliance on AI for information retrieval, search engine, recommendation system may lead to a digital amnesia effects, where individuals offload memory tasks to AI systems, and this can weaken memory consolidation and retrieval process in the brain. When I ask my son, do you remember your parents' phone number? They don't remember. Before, we remember. We memorizing all the phone number. But now, they don't remember. Even they use Google Maps every time they drive. You should remember memorizing the direction, not depend on the Google Maps. But that's the fact now. And then the impact on attention and focus, overstimulations to the social media, personalized content algorithms are designed to capture and retain attentions. These constant overstimulations can alter neural pathway associated with sustained attention and may exacerbate conditions like ADHD. So that is not a real ADHD. Many young people come and, doctor, I consider I ADHD. That is not ADHD. That is because of the impact, the short span of focus, attention, and lack of literacy, because the new generation now, they don't want to read one by one. They don't want to read the textbook. They read the resume. And this is, I think, relate to the system of our educations, because I think I'm not teaching in the university now, but I'm cheating because I should graduate the bachelor, and it will be accredited. So for a good accreditation, I should graduate many students. So I think it's not teaching anymore, but cheating the system. I don't know where. I think I need information from other countries because of the impact of the accreditation, not focus on the process, but focus on the result. And then the fragmented thinking. So multitasking prompt by AI, notification, and information overloads can hinder deep focus and encourage superficial processing of information, reducing the brain activity to engage in sustained analytical or creative thoughts. And then the reward system, we know the dopaminergic system, brain reward system, nucleus accumbens, ventral tegmentum area, hippocampus, etc. So the excessive dopamine release will make addictions. So when it can be not only a substance addiction, but now many behavior addictions, including the addiction to gadget, addiction to gaming disorders, online gambling. So it is the problems. And then about the emotional regulations. So AI-driven content that triggers emotional response, sensational news, create social media feeds, overstimulate the amygdala. Many people feel insecure when they see their partners or their friends' social media content. But that is fake. So reduction in human interaction. Now, there is a phenomena that many young people, they don't want to go outside and socializations because they like to be at home with the packet data. Packet data is very important for the children right now. So if we cut off the Wi-Fi, they can be anger, tantrum. Wow. And then the lack of empathy, of course, if they cannot have a socialization with others. Lack of experiencing to have a socialization and make a good relationships. So it will be reduce the empathy. So the algorithmic echo chambers. So we see this now is we call it attention economics. So all of our decisions to buy something driven by the algorithm of the social media, they will send us the advertisement refers to our preferences. So if we are not aware, like mindfulness is one of the techniques, so we will follow what they want to sell to us. So it will impact to the decision what we make. So mental health and increased stress and anxiety, unrealistic comparisons make us feel insecure. And then the potential mitigation is mindfulness, just like Professor Hattie already taught us. And we should train for the AI literacy, and we should design ethical AI systems in our education or in our context. So the conclusion is, while AI offers immense benefits, but its pervasive use can negatively affect brain's neurobiology by reducing cognitive engagement, overstimulating the reward system, and altering social and emotional development. So a balanced approach to AI integrations combined with strategies to mitigate these risks is crucial to preventing brain health and cognitive resilience. And then we can make discussions after this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Pranama. I think probably the focus of your talk was what in the introduction or the abstract is called or worded as we're already in the era of peak humanity, which means peak kind of reasoning, creativity, and future generations are losing that peak that we have reached because of the use of AI. But we're already there, and we have to deal with it. And so that's, I think, part of your main message. Okay, thank you, Dr. Pranama. We'll go next. I think on the next prepared presentation is Dr. Davy.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'm Davy. I'm from Hong Kong, from Assistant Professor of Education, University of Hong Kong. And this is our recent book. Yeah, that we have a book promotion time here. And this is my writing journey, that education is really important. And the term AI literacy, a few years ago in 2021, at that time, because I was before that, I was a Bachelor of Computer Science student, and we look at AI from the technological perspective. But then, I was a secondary school for 9 years before I get my AP position. So I'm aware that during the COVID time, when I talk to the colleagues, they may avoid using online learning technologies. They may feel afraid. Okay, and then I was a IT panel convener at that time, and I tell them, the technological competency is also important for teachers. And during the COVID, there are many automatic technologies, just like intelligent tutoring system, chatbots. At that time, these type of AI technologies emerge. And that's why we come across the term AI literacy, which should be incorporated in digital literacy. And that's why in 2021, we have such a term. And later on, we think that students have a role to enhance their AI literacy. Teachers need to enhance that. And for teacher, when we do a pooling, so let's see how many of you are using ChatGPT in your daily life. It should be all of you. And then the next question is, imagine you are a secondary school teacher. You are trying to use this technology in your classroom. But then you hesitate, right? Because they are too young. They cannot control it. The thing is, the technology is there, but the teachers may avoid using it. They will hesitate it. So there could be some reasons. Maybe there's ethical concerns behind, and that's why teachers avoid using such technologies. For example, transparency and trust. And that's why for teachers, they need to make sense of the technologies. And so here we thought, a teacher also needs some AI competencies. They need to make sense of these technologies and by using some creative pedagogies. And then for roles of platform developer, we need to refine the existing capability, the AI's capability, so that the students, maybe from young and up to older adults, they can make use of these functions to reduce their user anxiety or enhance their well-being, enhance their learning outcomes. And recently, in the red part, I try to look at AI literacy from the psychological perspective. For example, we talk about reflection. We talk about self-regulation. And recently I also work for the older adults. And so what can AI express? So first of all, in the classroom, students can use AI to express what they have learned. So that is knowledge. And another way is that can AI express feeling, or can human use AI to express feeling? So this is because I'm from Hong Kong, so maybe you may have heard of the lion Under the Lion Rock song. This song before. Anyone have? Anyway, okay. So why do we need to use AI to express? Maybe this is a good question. Everyone have a mouth. They can speak. Can express. So why we need to use AI to express? Because when I work with the older adults, maybe for teenagers, not everyone can manipulate with video editing technologies, tools. But then AI can overcome such technological barrier that even when I'm not familiar with programming and animation videos, I can be an expert. And these two, so these two stories actually are written by older adults. They can generate the song using AI tool. And the left-hand side, they talk about the healthy life. And so the next question is, can AI enhance social emotion? So as previously, I talked about AI literacy should go beyond technological dimension, and we can look at the cognitive and also ethical domains. And this is the model that we proposed in 2021. The AI literacy should be wheeled from know and understand, use and apply, evaluate and create. And AI ethics should go along the 3 levels. So actually, I learned it from Bloom taxonomy. And luckily, I know there are many AI literacy experts all around the world, and I'm just only one of them. And luckily, some university, they like this model, and I try to search my model online, and they really use this. And I try to incorporate the affective and behavioral domains in one of my recent BJ paper. So this is the model. So the question here. Okay, so the question is, what are the emotions about AI? Maybe not everyone likes AI. Maybe I'm a higher performer in the classroom. I'm afraid that when a lower performer, they can use AI. Oh, they can have a better improvement. And where is my role? Okay, that's maybe the problem. Or if I am a worker, I'm afraid that maybe AI will replace my job one day. Okay, cognitive laziness. Professor has already talked about this. And maybe I feel guilt. Because I'm using AI to do my work. At least as a professor, I will worry that maybe later on there is something called AI tracking, plagiarism software, and then because I declare myself, actually I'm using ChatGPT at this moment. And then later on when the technology comes, they say, David, you are using AI too much. So your work should not belong to you. Okay, so you have a plagiarism problem. So you may have such a worries about the misinformation or AI scam. Okay, and the questions come. I think everyone knows about the inside out. Inside out. So AI is not yet trained to be a professional counselor, or just they display to behave like they are showing the empathy to you. And so there are other people in the classroom are important. So this is I remember there is a movie in maybe I go here. Do you remember the scenario at that time? Maybe I show this slide. And the blue one, I forget the name. Anyway, so the blue cartoon say, I'm sad because I lost my rocket. And then this is the reactions from ChatGPT. It shows you there are many strategies to reduce your anxiety. But if you were the child, you'll hear that, I actually don't need such strategy. I just need a friend to talk with me. Okay, so here come two studies. The first study is I also work with older adults. So this is a teacher, and then AI and older adults work with the younger students. Because as everyone will go aging. Aging is a problem for everyone. But AI won't get old. And the older adults, they like to tell stories about the good old days. In their younger times. So we try to incorporate this setting to enable older adults can share the stories by using AI with the younger student, and at the same time they can learn the technologies, the skills from young students, and then the young students can learn about the stories, autobiographical memories, the stories from older adults. And teacher's role, we need to make sense of the technologies. So we try to introduce some pedagogies in the, for example, collaborative learning during the process. Okay, so in the classroom, students can learn with the older adult to gain, both of them gain some AI knowledge and skills. And the middle, actually the old man in the middle is my supervisor, the PI of this project. And then I said, you don't need to join this program. You are already an AI expert. And then anyway, the setting is like this. So they talk with each other, and then they learn from each other. And at the end, older adults will celebrate and look at each other's work. So the cross outline is over here. Okay, so the result is they can enhance their self-efficacy as well as the well-being. Because when the older adult, they share about their youth. Okay, so they can enhance their psychological well-being. Happiness that may not work that much, and then life satisfaction, and they have always someone to talk about, at least they feel confidence because even for the older adult, they think, I'm the AI expert already. Okay, so they will feel less loneliness. So this is about the well-being idea. So for the reflection, they can share about their life story, some good memory, happiness moment with their wife or husband. Yeah, and then they think interact with AI before the class. They think, it's really impossible for me. But after the class, they will think, I can have a little confidence of using technology. I can make the videos, make the songs using AI. And they can also enhance the socialization with the teenagers, will feel a touching or thankful moment. So another setting is that actually I learned it from my wife is an arts teacher. And once we go into the arts gallery, I look at the painting that the migrants, feel that I come to the new place, but I'm not the one who always need to receive help. Yeah, I can also deliver, I can also contribute my cultural knowledge and language, for the local students. And in my classroom, actually we have around over a half from the mainland, students. They are speaking Putonghua, and the local are speaking Cantonese, and we have a little bit difference regarding the culture. So we let them interact again using the same setting. Okay, so the teacher over here and the AI, and also the local and non-local students. This is the competition we organizing for the 5th time. So if you are interested, you can invite your students and children to join. This should be okay. So the result is the students can enhance their cross-cultural understanding because they are talking about the migration stories, using AI, and then they can talk about the culture stories, or how they tackle with the difficulties when they come to the new place. So they have an enhancement in cross-cultural understanding, well-being, and empathy. So regarding the themes that they are writing, so for example, they are making the cake, the Chinese style cakes, and then a place in Tibet, and then the history about Hong Kong, how the Chinese New Year goes. So this is the students' work. Throughout the process, they can enhance the well-being. They can understand each other better. Okay, so here the Q&A session, maybe there are some follow-up questions that you may think about. Maybe I need to pass.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Davey. And excellent, you kept to the time. I think, maybe the idea of AI literacy is something that should be continued to. What is it? And does it include an ethical perspective, not just sort of technical skills, but the idea of literacy, I think, is an important point. Okay. And our last point, our last speaker is Professor Qixing Su. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Qixing. I'm CS Chair. I'm also from Hong Kong. I'm from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. My background is a little bit different. I'm not an AI expert. I'm more like a memory researcher. I was trained as an experimental psychologist. So as you see that, the title of my talk is a little bit mouthful. Like we're writing our personal history through generative AI in search of the inter-peace and peaceful coexistence while autobiographical memory. And I'm going to show this one by one, what I'm going to talk about. The first half is about psychology. The second half is about AI, how we are going to use AI tools to facilitate the research in autobiographical memory. First, what is autobiographical memory? Which is basically the memories of our personal past. Say, for example, this guy, he's now working in metropolitans, in the cities, in city area. He will think about what happened in the past when he was a student, when he was a child in a suburban area or even a rural area. And all these actually serve some functions. Why do we need to recall? Why do we need to have our autobiographical memory? Because it serves some functions. First, it's about the identity. So the autobiographical memory, or AM, can help us to construct and maintain our coherent sense of ourselves over time. since our birth and also what we have encountered throughout our life. The second function is about directive. So we all learn from our experience. So our AM, our autobiographical memory, is our source of information or the knowledge. So we can make use of past experience to help us to guide our current or even future directions. That's the second function. The third one is more related to the social function. So we enhance the bonding with each other. We share our personal experience with the other people within our group. And all of these will foster the empathy and also understanding with each other within our group. So all these are the functions of autobiographical memory. In one of my previous research, we did AM research. We found that the more vivid and cohesive our autobiographical memory, the stronger the sense of purpose in life within the university student population. So this is more like a correlational research. We can see that there's a relationship between these two things. So that's the AM. And one of my research area is related to the narrative perspective in AM. So basically what I meant by narrative perspective, I'm going to write up an essay about my AM of presentation here. So first, of course, I can use the first person perspective. I present in front of all of you about the AM and also how AI tools will help us to do the AM research. That's called field perspective. We can also try to look at the things from a third person perspective. So I narrate the description based on the third person pronouns. For example, he or she. He is going to present something, some slides, and trying to make sure that the talk is within the 15 minutes. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. So this is like a third person perspective. In my previous research, I found that if you shift your first person perspective to the third person perspective, we say that if you are trying to recall some negative events that happened in the past and you are trying to shift your perspective to the third person perspective, this will try to distance yourself from the negative events, and that will reduce the emotional intensity of your mood when you recall those events. Similarly, for the positive events, it will also reduce the imagery vividness, and also this will reduce the emotional intensity. But in my talk, I focus more on the negative events. And in my subsequent studies, even within the first person perspective, we're trying to focus more on the meaning of the event. So what you can learn from the events, how does the event be directive for your current and also your future behavior, that will increase your psychological well-being. And so even for the first person perspective, we can also enhance the psychological well-being instead of like just bog down to the details of the negative events. So basically, you can find the inner peace by keeping a distance or focusing more on what you can learn from our negative personal memories. That's what we learn from the narrative perspective in AM. And then we are going to move on to the next part. We're not only talking about the individual level, AM, but also about the collective memory. So collective memory, basically, for example, here, the pictures is like, it's very typical in Chinese as a family. So we all sit around in the table, and then we talk about the things that happened in our past. So the parents, they are going to talk about what happened in the past and how you're going to deal with the things and things like that to their kids and things like that. They're going to share. All these are related to the so-called collective memory. So we share the knowledge and narrative, including our personal AM, in a group of people. And it also serves some functions. For example, the identity, which is about the group status, group belongingness, or solidarity within a social group. The second one is about the social. Of course, the more you share your personal memory with the other member within your group, the stronger the bonding, the emotional bond you'll have, and also better relationship with these individuals. That's the second function. The third one is also directive. So you should see that actually there's some parallel between the AM and also collective memory. For the directive, it's about the life lessons. So the parents, the grandparents can convey the life lessons to their kids and also to the grandchild. In one of my studies, there is a positive effect of intergenerational transmission when we talk about this kind of directive function within the AM and also collective memory. And also therapeutic functions. For example, if something bad happened within that particular social group, they can make use of this collective memory in order to cope with their adverse situation. Then that, for example, natural disaster and things like that. The last one is about knowledge. Basically, we are conveying the life history. We are conveying the fact about our nations to the offspring and also to the grandchildren. So the historical event could be make use of this to share with all the other members within our group. So all these are related to the collective memory. You may think, okay, what happens if across different social groups, we all have our own different collective memory. So sometimes, for example, in Hong Kong context, some immigrants from mainland China, they have their own collective memory. And we have also our collective memory from the locals. So sometimes the collective memory could be in clash, could be in conflict, right? So this will actually may perpetuate conflict because they are sharing different collective memory, and there could be some conflict among different social groups. But we can also think about how about we trying to discuss with each other? How about we trying to reconcile with each other so that we will have some potential to make use of this collective memory to aid the reconciliation. Okay, so that is what I'm going to talk about, how we are going to move from the collective memory to shared collective memory among different social groups. It is related to one of the theory, one of the models constructed by Cattell and Mercy in 2019, which is about how we can construct a shared collective memory through the reconciliation and also trust-building processes to bridge between our conflicting group and foster the pieces. Here is the model. Very first, it's based on the trust-based model. Very first, when the two social groups they do not believe in each other, they do not trust each other, it's called Cold War. So basically, because they are still living within the same society, that's why they still need to trust. They need to work with each other. But at that time, it's like more like a working trust. We trust them because we need to work with each other. We need to serve our own self-interest. That's the very first point. So the group will express their own narrative, but other group doesn't care because that's your story and I have my story. So this is more like a unchallenged collective memories. And then after a while, if they are becoming more discuss with each other and trying to reconcile, we will have a cold peace. So we trust them because we want to know more about the other group, the other social group within our society. So this is called knowledge-based trust. It's based on the discussion between the group about the facts and interpretation. So sometimes there are conflict, but that's okay because people can clarify. People can try to reconcile this kind of conflict. It's called challenged collective memory. At the end, it's called warm peace. So after we build up more, share more about our collective memory, we could trust them because we're trying to share the same common identification. We're now trying to screen out some of the untrue or false memories, and then trying to believe and then trying to trust with each other. It's called identification-based trust. So the two groups will share we build the shared collective memory, and this is the ultimate goal that we are going to do, trying to resolve the conflict. Now we're going to talk about AI. So how we are going to rewrite our personal history through the generative AI. So the first thing we can do is we can use AI to generate some images. That images could be familiar to the participant, to the subjects, and it could facilitate them to generate some AM events narration. Say, for example, I'm from Hong Kong. Back in the old days, 30 years ago, this is the public housing. And then we have the playground shared by all the residents within this public housing. And this is, of course, AI-generated images, and this could be used as a cue to trigger people to recall what happened in the past, what happened when they were young. And this is another one, arcade game center, which is for the bad kids because they don't want to go to the school, they don't want to go home after the class, so they just stay in the arcade game center and then trying to play the Street Fighters. So that's how I grew up. Last one is about the food store, Dai Pai Dong. It's one of the favorite food stores in Hong Kong. People are just sitting on the street and then trying to have their dinner together with their family. So all these are very familiar scenes that we can make use of these scenes to trigger people to recall the AM events, trying to substantiate their description about the AM events. That's one thing. Another thing is about the collaborative AM image generation. So what if we have two people from different social groups, and then they will talk to each other, and then they are trying to build up some first unfamiliar cultural heritage description. Say, for example, someone who came to Hong Kong from England, and then they were trying to come up with their own cultural heritage this narrative. I have my own cultural heritage for their my own narrative for their cultural heritage because I'm not unfamiliar with them. So that's why this is unfamiliar. And then we share with them, and then they're trying to discuss how we can build up, how we can refine the narrative to generate the more accurate images. So, for example, people from Hong Kong, they can talk about this, how this kind of food store will appear on the street, and then we buy food from the street. And in Tokyo, I'm not very familiar, and then I was just trying to focus more on the cherry blossom and also this kind of Tokyo Tower and things like that. And in UK, we have Big Ben, we have London Eyes, you have all kind of double-decker bus. That is the thing that I thought about UK. Someone from UK, maybe you disagree, and then trying to refine these images together so that we can know each other even better. So that is the basic paradigms. And this kind of image generation process, we have 3 approaches. We can focus more on the realistic, realistic, trying to depict the realistic scenes, or we can based on some events that happen in our life so that we can recreate memorable scenarios. Or we can even be more creative, trying to express the exploratory creation, trying to talk more about, trying to create something new about that. So these 3 approaches, through discussion, people from different social groups, we can find the AI-generated image to enhance their mutual understanding. And also the benefit for using this one is because it will eliminate our personal narrative. We can amplify. Sometimes there's something neglected, and then people from another group will trying to remind us and then trying to amplify this kind of neglected details so that we can understand more about that. We can also reinterpret our personal and historical narrative throughout the discussion among the groups. So what we should do next? The very first one is about individual level. How about how AI-generated images or narrative would help us to recall our memory? The very first thing is, could AI-generated images help us understand our AM events more through a new lens, say, for example, from different perspective, from different narrative perspective, and boost the coherence and emotional depth, which is related to the interpiece, our psychological well-being, our mental health. That's the individual level. We can also talk about the things within the family level. So the parents and the grandparents, can they share the AM events with the other, share the AM event with their kids and also grandkids through these AI-generated images, so that we can try to boost their bondings and also resolve some conflict, which if we search for the interpiece within our family, Of course, we can even make it even bigger. It's about intergroup level. So that's what I said. They trying to build up the images for the cultural heritage. And then they remind each other, they're trying to discuss, trying to integrate with each other. So that with that enhanced understanding of the cultural bias, especially the cultural bias, we have to review it. We have to disclose it in order to challenge them and then and trying to correct them with each other. So this will boost the intergroup trust and also resolve the intergroup conflict, which will ultimately lead to the peaceful coexistence. Finally, I want to thank my graduate PhD students, Guxuan. She's in Shandong University. And also I would like to thank Lauren Brown. I met him when I was an exchange student at University of Alberta 25 years ago. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, CS. You kept to the time brilliantly, and a lot of information there for us to process and think about. But especially, yes, AI-generated images, helping with intergenerational, intercultural communication. Okay, we'll open it up for questions now. I think there are probably lots of questions, but I want you to kind of make your questions concise so that we can get as many as possible. We do want to kind of use this panel as a way of connecting with other sessions in this conference, but also in future conferences. So keep it as kind of institutional memory to build on these themes. Okay, we have some people online. They might have questions, but first we'll look at questions from people here, people present.
Hi, thank you all for your presentations. As you all were talking, I was thinking about conveniences. And this might be silly, but I'm going to give some examples. Paint by numbers. Taking famous paintings and breaking them down into pieces and making it so that other people can consume this work and create their own versions of these existing pieces, right? Cake mix. Anybody can make a decent cake with cake mix, right? That you buy at the store. Safety assistance in cars. If you can afford a car that has the functionality to help you brake sooner when there might be an accident. And it got me thinking about these things. They're available to everyone and they're accessible. But of course, some of these things you might think of as luxuries. And Then there might be other instances of public goods. Everyone has access to libraries within their communities, right? But that depends on what neighborhood you're in and where you live. And anyway, this all led me to thinking, with the example that Dr. Hadva gave about the therapy and, the examples of using AI to create images, got me thinking, is AI a luxury or a public good? Right? So, and how do you mitigate consent and access to those things based on whether it's a luxury or a public good?
So I'll take that. And you're talking about actually the question of regulation. And this is something that there is the beginning of conversation about regulation in several countries, but it's not regulated yet. And not only that, but the whole question of access, which is what you're bringing up, this is another element that's really delicate because of the socioeconomic status that's different across regions, across cultures, across countries. So I think that we are really in our infancy as a global community of understanding how is it that we are going to actually use these tools. And even more so than that, how is it that we make sure that the general public understands that it is a tool, how to discern and discriminate between a true image and a false image, between true information and false information. Even if it is available with public access, anybody right now can come in and create whatever they want. So I think that these are all concerns that need to be, and I think we as educators and psychologists are especially poised to be able to act as consultants to government, to corporations, to educational institutes, to start bringing in these new questions and perspectives. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
I hear we have a question online as well. If you have a question online, can you please turn your microphone and ask? Maybe not. Going once, twice, 3 times? Okay, on to the next.
I think we have a raised hand. Amel, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Amel Benalek from the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology here in Japan. And actually, I have at the same time a comment and a question regarding the impact of AI on the brain. So, sorry. Yeah, so according to the talk of, I think, Dr. Dharmawan, so AI has many negative impacts on the brain, such as plasticity and memory, and even in the, enhancing some symptoms of some impairments such as ADHD. So I don't disagree with the idea that AI can have multiple negative impacts. However, I think that the use of AI is the key of this kind of impact. So according to how we use AI and in which kind of tools AI is used, the impact would be different. This is my comment. And at the same time, the question about ADHD situation is very interesting because ADHD, usually individuals with ADHD have a kind of lack of stimulation in the brain. And when they take their medication, the medication works so it makes them, it makes their brain stimulated.
Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, so the question is, if AI in this situation makes people feel like ADHD, so how about using this AI in suitable tools to intervene in real ADHD individuals, so to stimulate the brain of ADHD individuals and get this effect that is usually brought by medication or something like that. So how doctors in like brain-related medicine can think about this kind of tools? Thank you.
Thank you for the good questions. First, I agree with your comment. That's why in the first, when I opened the presentation, I say that maybe the positive impact will come, not only the negative impact. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorders. So anyone who will receive the diagnosis of ADHD should prove that he has ADHD since the beginning, before 7 years old. So if someone come to me without any history of the attention deficits or impulsivity or hyperactive or mix of them, and suddenly 25 years old in attention deficit, and they ask for a level of diagnostic of ADHD and ask for excuse for the scholarship, that is bullshit. I don't agree with the medication only for ADHD, because we have a neuroplasticity. In my practice, I use any kind of training exercise of the brain. One of them is I train neurofeedbacks. I evaluate, make assessment with the brain mapping, the quantitative EEG. I check the continuous performance test with the TOFA from Los Alamitos, USA. TOFA is the test of variable of attention. SCPT is a continuous performance test. And then I make evaluation of the psychological battery testing. So you cannot lie on me or cheat me for the diagnosis. And then medication just for help. I make an analog that a brain is a hardware. And then we should install a new software with training, with teaching, with thinking, with psychotherapy. So I'm not a toxic psychiatrist, only give medications. How? If the medication lack of stock. Because in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, we always lack of stock of methylphenidates, one of the ADHD medications. Then we can do nothing. So you should survive with how to stimulate your neuroplasticity even though you have an ADHD. When I was a child, I'm an ADHD. Until 4 grades in the elementary school, the symptoms of the hyperactivity reduced. But the inattention, I survived with how I train my attention, how I modify the way I learned, the way I read the books. And the situation at that time, without medications, only, that we call it kemoching. What is kemoching? The tools to dash bus. Yeah. And then my parents will hit me if I read the books without voices, because they cannot supervise me whether I really read the books or my thinking mind wandering. So that is more important. We talk in this forum how to teach, how to train, how to make exercise, how to empowering the society, not only with the medication. Medication helps us to the function of mind for the hardware, but train, stimulate our neuroplasticity is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm from India, Veer Pratap, and my question is to Dr. Chi Ching, and pardon me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I want to understand how, in my doctoral studies, I am also trying to bring out the collective memory as well as individual memory of the respondent, and what would be the best way to bring out those memories without making them relive those traumatic experiences, because I am dealing with the social marginalization, discrimination in physical spaces, in social spaces. So there is an associated memory of trauma that they underwent during that time, and in order with the recollection, they'll also be reliving it. So what will be the best practice to not make them undergo the same traumas in a similar manner?
Yes, it has to be very careful when we ask somebody to recall something that's traumatic to them. So I think at the beginning we need to make sure that clinical psychologists or the protocol of our procedure has to be approved by IRB, Institution Review Board, to make sure that we have some procedures. For example, in the debriefing form, we will provide more contact numbers or contact information for them if they have something very depressive after they recall their memories and things like that. And another thing we can do is on the procedure. We don't have to be very focused on the dramatic events itself. We can ask them to recall some events that happened to them in the past. And we did not need to specify the specific events or specific event, like natural disaster. For example, they will just recall the most salient events that happened to them. That's not necessarily related to that natural disaster. And we're trying to focus on the different subset of the participants when we're trying to analyze our data, or trying to talk about how the AI in generating images will help to reconcile this one. Yeah, that's pretty much the two advice that I can give.
Okay, I think perhaps Dr. Hebda can comment on the same question also.
So you're asking about the impact of imagery evoking traumatic memory. And I think that we can actually blend our two processes together. Some of the issues with traumatic memory is needing to know how do we soothe and calm ourselves when something arises. And so basic breathwork practices are always a very good start. And also being able to develop conscious awareness to evaluate our own reactivity. And then the other piece with reactions is the feeling of isolation. And so the development of some sense of social connection, which I think is what your program is offering, is we break through the isolation so that we're not alone with our trauma should it be evoked. And we then have a place perhaps where we can have conversation that allows for another deeper layer of healing. And then, of course, with the context of my 5 steps, the next step is to kind of gain insight and awareness using our intuition and creativity to create a context that is a healing story of how it is perhaps we've grown or learned something or progressed beyond that traumatic memory, and how is it now within the context of our community we can take positive action to help others who may have experienced the same kind of challenges that we have. How do we extend that care through our social networks? I hope that's one way of understanding the response.
Great, thank you.
Hello, thank you for the interesting presentations from all of you. Something I was thinking about in particular from the first 2 presentations was kind of how a lot of the things that we talk about with AI as potential harms have been mentioned in relation to other technologies before. If we were having this conversation 10 years ago, it might have been about smartphones. Maybe they even in the 90s, it would have been about Windows 95 computers or something like that. And basically my question to you is how are these neurological and psychological threats from AI, how are they different to previous perceived threats from technology to our mental health?
But you can make a short answer to that. You want to start? Would you like to start?
So you're asking how can we make sure that we can deal with the threats that it brings up? I think we need to really come together in forums like this to have distinct conversations. And how can we, in our forum, for example, as educators, as psychologists, begin to create structures and interventions to be able to create policy. There was an article that I read in Academia that suggested all kinds of things. For example, not just regulation, but also the experience of making AI available to everybody without patents on AI. And, I'll contact me and I'll send you the list of the things that this software engineer came up with of what we might be able to do to respond to the threats that AI is bringing. One of them was to make it illegal for it to be used in warfare, for example. It's just one example.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the kind of uniqueness of this AI threat. It can be applied in really dangerous situations.
Yeah, I think for the mental health treatment, we know now we start to use the virtual reality for the therapy for phobia, etc. So I think just like what Professor Hetfas say, that we should sit together and collaborate together to develop the AI as a tools in the treatment, in the therapy.
So I think your question is about the threat, the differences in threat. Many years ago versus the AI era, right? So I think many years ago, when we talk about a computer, we talk about students or the kids are addicted to the computer games. They do not want to do their schoolwork, and then they're trying to stick to the video games over and over, trying to do that. But nowadays, and at the middle age, it's about the online player, right? You're trying to play some online game with the other kids all over the world, and that was pretty much spend most of their time doing that. But nowadays, when we talk about AI, we talk about an agent in front of the kids. So the kids sometimes they cannot distinguish whether the AI agent is really a real person or actually some kind of like information or narrative generated by the AI platform. So say for example, some of the news saying that they just feel that AI agent is really their girlfriend or boyfriend, and then they will just trust what the AI platform is providing them. So that's pretty dangerous because the kids cannot distinguish. Who would fully believe in whatever they can get from the AI platform. So that's why I think for the AI literacy is we also need to teach our kids or trying to nurture our kids about what is it about AI or the underlying mechanism of AI, how they're going to generate all this narrative. It's not because those narratives is based on your interaction and how you should interact with the AI agents more wisely.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, AI literacy is really important. And it make me remember one of my the intervention when students write a story with AI, and they try not to tell too much about themselves because they never know who is the platform developer. If the platform developer knows too much about you, and that would be dangerous. Yeah, and you never know. The responses is always uncontrollable, and that's why the idea that I propose is the setting. Yeah, the teachers have the role to make sense of the technologies, try to avoid students not to over rely on AI, and that always someone to get help from real people. Yeah.
Okay, that will be the last question. I think they're good questions for us to continue discussing, and especially that last question. I think it's many young people think of it that way. I've heard in the past about the dangers of, that computers are going to get rid of teaching jobs and all of these things are going to change the world. And it hasn't happened in a negative way. But it's the speed of the change. It's the unpredictability of what's happening. We don't know. We are responding to things happening so quickly that I think that's the concern, maybe the main concern.